Hello, my name is Zach Leasor. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Natural Resources here at the University of Missouri, where I serve as the Missouri State Climatologist and Director of the Missouri Climate Center. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Missouri Fall Climate Outlook. And so before looking ahead, we can take a quick look back at September, where across most of the region, temperatures were above normal with below normal precipitation. And so if we look here on the right, this shows the departure from normal temperatures for September 1st to September 30th. You can see for almost all of the state, we see those yellows, oranges, and reds showing above normal temperatures. A few locations to the south and southeast that were closer to normal. But if we look at some of the larger climate sites across the state here, Kansas City and St. Louis, temperatures 3 degrees Fahrenheit above normal, not as warm in Springfield, Columbia, and Cape Girardeau, but still 1 to 2 degrees above normal there. Precipitation was variable across the state. So here on the right, I'll show a 30-day departure from normal. And so you can see a lot of red indicating areas that received less than their normal precipitation in September. Really only far southwest Missouri received normal or above normal precipitation during the month. But again, if we check our climate sites, some were just below normal, such as St. Louis and Springfield. But we look at cities like Columbia and Kansas City, 3 inches below normal, where they really only saw about a half inch of rainfall for the month. So definitely a dry and warm September that we can put in the books for Missouri. This dryness is part of a longer trend as well. So if we look here at our 180-day precipitation departures going back to April 4th, this really captures the total drought we've seen in Missouri across the summer and fall now. So really, we started to see abnormally dry conditions starting in April, and they've continued throughout the summer. Even though there have been some rainfall events, it's been not enough for that drought recovery to occur. So anywhere you see red on the map, going back to April, we have precipitation deficits across the state ranging from 9 to 15 inches in those worst areas. And so if we look at the most recent U.S. Drought Monitor map here, we'll see a large portion of the state in abnormally dry, moderate, or severe drought, with some of the worst locations shown in red here, where we see extreme or D3 drought conditions. Now, we can start October very similarly to how September ended, and that's warm and dry. So here we can look at the National Weather Service forecast for temperatures on Tuesday, October 3rd. We see here these numbers are the forecasted high temperatures, middle to upper 80s, maybe a few spots touching 90. The background shading shows the departure from normal or departure from climatology. And so we see here lots of oranges and reds where those temperatures are really about 15 to 20 degrees above normal to start the month. Similar with our low temperatures as well, seeing overnight lows in the 60s, which is much above normal there. Now, we're expecting some changes here during this first week of October. So on the left here, I'm showing a forecast map for Thursday morning where we see a cold front draped across Missouri, moving to the southeast with some precipitation occurring along that front overnight on Wednesday, with the second cold front behind it that'll be poised to also move to the southeast and bring a reinforcing shot of cold air into the weekend. And so on the right here, we can look at the 7-day precipitation forecast to see how much rainfall we could expect from this event. So you can really kind of see where that front might move through the state here. We can see up to 2 inches of rainfall in southwest Missouri, but otherwise there's a stripe that goes from southwest to northeast where we might see ½ inch to an inch. With some drier locations as well, maybe only seeing a ½ inch of rainfall for the week. So still not enough to really help with the drought recovery, where we need to see those precipitation totals being a little higher this time of year. But after that cold front, the good news is that we can actually expect some seasonal conditions, and we'll have a really nice first cool weekend of the fall here. So this is the forecast for Saturday, where we see temperatures in the lower 60s. This is actually 10 to 15 degrees below normal for the year, and our overnight lows right around 40 into the upper 30s. And so when we start to think about overnight lows this time of year in the upper 30s, we are getting close to that first frost date. So frost occurs around 36 degrees Fahrenheit. And so we can see here, this is the forecast from Friday overnight into Saturday morning, when we'll probably see our coolest night here. We see 39 here at a couple spots, but some darker blues on the map, where we'll likely see middle 30s in some of those more rural locations. And so we'll probably see some frost or frost advisories going into the weekend. So be sure to keep up with the forecast. This is right on track with our climate normals here. So on the right, this map shows the average first frost date across the state. And really for the northern third of the state, we typically see that first frost during the first week of October, like we're expecting this week. The rest of the Missouri probably won't see a frost central or southern Missouri this weekend, but we typically see that occur in middle October, late October if you're in the southeast part of the state. And then we also look for that first freeze too when we get down to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Typically occurs later in October, about 2 weeks after that frost, with the first freeze occurring into early November if you're in the southeast. And so if we look at our 6 to 10 day temperature outlook that starts really this weekend going into early next week, we see those below normal temperatures across the eastern third of the United States. But as we go into next week and into next weekend, we start to see warm air moving to the east again behind that cold air here. And so we're leaning or likely above normal temperatures in that second week period. But the bad news is a drier signal is showing up in the forecast here as well. So not a strong forecast either way, but still leaning below normal as far as precipitation outlook in the second week period. And so as we look farther into October and really into the beginning of the winter season as well, you'll probably hear a lot about El Nino as we look at some of those seasonal forecasts. So this is a warm phase of Pacific sea surface temperatures. And so on this map here, we see our sea surface temperature anomalies warmer than normal off the west coast of South America. And we really see since early spring, we've seen those sea surface temperatures increasing with El Nino setting in over the summer. Now, what's good about El Nino is it's a slow-moving kind of temperature anomaly in the oceans, and the water temperatures are slower to evolve than our atmospheric temperatures. So this gives us a good slow-moving signal for long-term predictions. And so here we see our forecast for El Nino conditions really continues into the spring months. Even the spread of models has El Nino strengthening and not starting to weaken until we get into 2024. So we can really expect El Nino to have a big impact on our winter forecast. And so here we can look at some composites. So these are averages during El Nino years. And so you can check out and maybe remember some of those El Nino years here. But we typically see warmer temperatures across the northern half of the United States. We also see more precipitation in the southeast and south central United States. Some of that moves into Missouri, but here we really see with this pattern is an active storm track. So we can see drier than normal over the Ohio Valley, some wetter of the Great Plains, and it really depends on where this storm track sets up over the winter for El Nino. If that track moves by just a bit, it can drastically change this forecast, with Missouri kind of being in a transition area. And so looking forward, this is the Climate Prediction Center's forecast for October. We do see a pretty strong El Nino pattern here. So above normal temperatures, especially across the north central United States, and drier conditions to our east, wetter conditions to our west. And so again, right on that line here in Missouri, not as much confidence as we go farther out in the forecast. So here is a 3-month period from October to December. Really in Missouri, equal chances for either below or above normal temperatures. And again, kind of on the line with precipitation. So we see a tendency for higher precipitation in the forecast to our southeast, but equal chances for Missouri. And so when we combine this information and look at our seasonal drought outlook, unfortunately for October and into December, the Climate Prediction Center is forecasting that drought to persist. And so we see the color brown across the state in these maps. And that's because right now we're not seeing a forecast for above normal rainfall to bring us out of that drought. And so we do expect those conditions to continue, but no drought development or additional development in the forecast for now. And so finally, I just want to add that some of these seasonal forecasts are difficult and are very experimental to produce. And so it's good to check forecasts with different sources as well. An expert on this in the School of Natural Resources is Dr. Anthony Lupo, an atmospheric science professor. I really encourage you to go to his website here, his research group's website, where they post previous seasonal forecasts, and they've done pretty well, and also are posting their forecast for this winter. And so an early look here really relies on some of these El Nino conditions. So looking at a forecast for a slightly warmer winter than normal, based on some more recent classic El Nino events. And so some of these you may remember if you've been living in the state for a while. And so those temperatures here, he's forecasting anywhere from 1.5 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit above normal with some more humid conditions as well. Cool falls before and a warmer spring can also be common when looking at these El Nino years, and ultimately leaning towards precipitation being above normal. So snow also near normal here with 10 to 15 inches forecasted for the winter. And so that's all I've got for today. Here's my contact information, so feel free to reach out via email or phone if you have any questions. Thank you.